As expected, today was a tidal wave of insanity. Obviously, you guys saw what I wrote last night. It was pretty shocking to learn of the passing of Bob Burgess. Bob was a good friend of mine, somebody that worked very closely, both inside the stable, helping us form some of the policy that we put together. Bob was a lawyer by trade, and he was a very, very nice man. Father of Blair Burgess. Bob was in the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. He had won all the races that we would ever aspire to win. He'd already won them all. And yet he still wanted to be a member, an active member of the stable at an older age. He was 80-some years old and still owned quite a few shares of horses at the stable. And I was so surprised and heartbroken to hear about his passing. I saw him at the fence. He drove his car up to the fence and watched every set that went. And I waved to him, and they said, the horses are going good today. And I just figured we'd, call and shoot the breeze later on about the babies, which ones I thought were going good and bad. And he was always a great guy. He had already been everywhere, so he was a great guy to, bounce ideas off of, or just talk about just an endless list of things, whether it be horse racing, politics, or anything. And he'll definitely be sorely missed for sure. So I guess if you're gonna go, that's the way to go, right? Spend the morning, enthusiastically watching babies train, doing something you've loved your whole life, and then go home and sit down and die. It's definitely a shock, but I guess if I was to pick a way to do it, that would pretty near be it. So rest in peace. He's a great guy and going to be sorely missed. So what took place today other than that? I got up today, had a number of horses to move, but you can't just ship them, right? You have to have health papers stamped. Coming off a long weekend and a holiday, not an easy thing to do. So I made a list of horses I knew after speaking with trainers. After making my mind up, I had decided 6 horses for sure. Now, more than 6. 6 were leaving. So this may be a surprise to many of you, but Brave World and Time Houdini are both entered in Michigan at Northville Downs on Friday or Saturday. We had to run and make sure we could find the vaccination slips for the rhino vaccine so that they could ship. Then I had to double check and make sure the papers were going to be ready on time. That's going to be a tight timeline. And then, of course, make sure that they were fit and ready to go for Friday night or Saturday, whenever day they get in. And they are. So, had a good day there. Personally, I only went with 1 or 2 horses today. I trained Braemar in 159 at the farm. I had the vet go over him afterwards, scoped him, clean bill of health across the board. There's a little bug inside me, a little voice gnawing at me saying, geez, you could slide 4 aluminums on this horse and I bet you'd be a little snappier. It's still an early part of the year for him, and I don't know that I want to go that route. For those other horsemen, you know what I'm talking about. When you put 4 aluminums on a horse, sometimes it'll pick them up and they'll bounce forward, but it can be a little harder on them. That alloy is a little less forgiving, so that the constant pounding on the track is a little harder on them. And as you can imagine, what that would lead to could lead to some soreness or issues later on for a horse that has never had any. So I overruled that little voice in my head. We're going to go with 4 steel shoes for Friday with Tim. He trained hard. He got all his fluids. He had a vet check. Everything done that needed to be done for Brave World is done for Friday. He will ship with me. I'm going to play shipper on Wednesday, and I'm going to ship Brave World to the Meadows for Tim. That will put me in the United States of America. So, again, flying by the seat of my pants here, I really have to, one, I'm going to look to get vaccinated on Thursday if I can in Ohio. That really won't mean much for the border, but shipping the horses will for this time across. And until, I guess, more definitive answers are given about an actual timeline of shutdown, whether it be the 2 weeks that Mohawk is hoping for, whether it be the 4 weeks the government has laid out, or whether it be longer because of delays. I'm not trying to downplay what is going on. It's serious here in Ontario and in Canada. I know some of the NHL hockey players are sick right now with some of these COVID variants. So it can't be any more fluid than it is right now, right? This situation that we're in here in Ontario can't be any more fluid, but I am going to keep moving. I endeavor to do two things: get some horses across to the States. As I said, the first two leaving, the first two, not even the first two racing, but Timo Houdini and Brave World are headed to Michigan. That's who's headed to Michigan. Headed to New York, Broadway Roll. So Admirable. Cyros Blue Chip. And Perfect Record. Perfect Record might actually race at Plain Ridge. So it's almost like a grenade went off in the stable, and we are scattering them all over the map. From this point outward, some going to Michigan, some going to potentially one, I guess, going to Massachusetts, 3 going to New York. Oso Pine will race Sunday in the Open at Northfield Park, so there's one for sure. White Tiger has a class at Northfield Park. I also reached out to Irv Miller. Irv is just getting his Indiana barn set up, so I don't want to just ship him there. I think maybe we'll get a start into him in Northfield Park on Tuesday. Never raced on a half, and made a break at Mohawk coming out of the turn the other day. So I'm going to train him tomorrow here, a stiff mile, and see how he feels. That would be a week out from Northfield Park. If we get him over there on Wednesday or Thursday, he could train Friday or Saturday. So a lot going on with him, right? I don't want to miss anybody. I know I got a ton of horses here. That's 6, that's 8. Italian Grit's probably going to have to cross the border at some point. Where does he go? I don't know yet. I really don't know. Theoretically, Fox Valley Britska, Italian Grit, and That's My Girl, if she's ready, we'll have a stake race. I believe it's April 28th in Indiana. I told you that I had talked to Travis Henry about going to Indiana. That's a tall order. That kid wants to go, but here's the reality of what it means to go. You leave your wife and kids for a few weeks, right? But you have to quarantine for 2 when you come back. Even if you somehow get back into Canada without quarantining, you have to quarantine from the Ontario tracks. That's separate. That's a private issue. They said 14 days when you enter back into Canada before we will let you race on an Ontario track. So Travis was on a bit of a roll when Ontario started back up, and I know from a driver's standpoint, you don't want to dismiss that. You don't want to just walk away from that. So, do they go to Irv? I guess we could send them to Irv for a few weeks to see how it is. My dance card is ripped up at this point. I guess it's every man for himself at this point. I'm going to go to the States a couple of times over the next few weeks. If that means Indiana or Ohio, Pennsylvania, everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. And if, as I said, if the education minister and the health minister come back here in Ontario next week and say, hey, the March break for our children in Ontario was pushed to April. So I feel stupid even calling it March break. Our April break was the 12th, I guess, to the 19th or 12th, whenever. If they extend that to remote learning, then the gloves come off. Then I think, and I want to be abundantly clear, this is there's a number of steps here and a ton of moving parts, and at least 3 waves. The first wave will revolve around some of these horses going to the States now, right now. The next wave will be horses that we can't wait any longer. I'd like to get these horses raced. At no point are any of the Ontario breds on any of the waves. I'm not racing any Ontario breds, 2 or 3 year olds. Well, 2-year-olds we won't have to, but 3-year-olds outside of the province. It makes no sense to do that and bring them back, tire them out, and then expect them to race against horses that are on their way through and fresh. It's just not wise, and I'm not going to do it. So if they do come back on that third potential path, if the government shuts down the schools, I think at that point, myself, my wife, Oliver, Ava, and Addie will be in Ohio. And every horse that is not an OSS horse will also be in the United States. So it makes sense. It's the only way to do it. And it's an extremely, extremely slippery slope and very, very fluid situation right now. So Sweet Ambitions also is going to Pennsylvania. So here's a list of horses I know are leaving this week. Broadway Roll, Holy Chick will be leaving in the next week or so. Holy Chick, Italian Grit, Perfect Record, Cyrus Blue Chip, So Admirable, Sweet Ambitions, That's My Girl. Potentially, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch, but I do not have a tentative class, track, or date when he'll be leaving. He's on the Let's Wait and See What Ontario Says list. Oso Pine is leaving. Timo Houdini is entered and will be leaving. White Tiger and Brave World. And Braemar will race on Friday, so you can add him to that list also. So from the list I see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 horses will be leaving Ontario in the next 5 days, for sure. Who is in that next wave that I spoke of, where it's, hey, let's wait and see what Ontario says. If they're back in 14 days, we can suck it up, and we can move forward after that. There's probably another 7 or 8 horses on that list. And then the wave I don't want to see will be the wave of, hey, we're going back to remote learning for the children. That's not going to happen. Well, I shouldn't say it won't happen. They'll definitely remote learn, but it'll be definitely remote because it'll be in another country. At that point, I believe I will move all the horses that aren't Ontario horses, all my children and my wife, over to Ohio for the next 3 or 4 months. Truthfully speaking, as a father and as a husband, I talked to my wife about this. Amy is obviously skittish, concerned, but understands that there's no point staying here if we can't race on a regular basis and our children aren't going to be in school. Why aren't we somewhere where we can be the most productive? And that would be in Ohio. My son Oliver has baseball, and I had a very, very difficult to have an adult conversation with a 7-year-old. And I had a conversation with him and explained to him that we have the ability to move to Ohio, potentially, if things don't look the way we want them to look, and that would mean that he wouldn't be able to play on the team. And I'll tell you what kind of a good kid he is. He understood what I was saying. He said, Dad, I don't care where I play baseball as long as I can play baseball. And I said, well, honey, you won't be on a team in Ohio, but I'm certain, I've talked to a number of our clients that are in the Columbus area anyway, and said that they can get Oliver in the rec league there. So he'll be able to play, hopefully. So I'm left trying to unravel this massive knot of fabric, if you will, and trying to figure out where everybody has to go. So you can only imagine what my night looked like last night, dealing with the loss of a very, very close friend. Not to mention dealing with trying to talk to trainers and figure out which jurisdictions are best for our horses and if they need to leave at all. One horse that I want to make abundantly clear that I have no interest in leaving, that is not an Ontario horse, and that's Spend That Money. The reason being, the class she fits right now is the class for her. We can make $30,000 in that class and she can beat them. So I would simply ask for your patience in allowing me to ride it out with her until we're back racing. So just so much, as you can, I'm sure you can tell, you know me well enough by now to know how much is rattling around in my empty head right now. A lot of balloons, a lot of plates, as they say, but I'm working through them. So as of right now, as I said, reiterate, Timo Houdini and Brave World will race at Northville Downs, which is in Michigan, this coming weekend. 4 horses heading to New York. So Admirable, Cyrus Blue Chip, they're New York breds, Cyrus Blue Chip, Broadway Roll, and then Perfect Record will be heading to that area also. I was going to race them at the Meadowlands, but it's straight numbers of 2. They went in 55 or 56 last week, and I'm not worried about the speed at all, but I am worried about them getting it at the proper way. I don't want to go from a couple of fast miles in 58 to 55 at the Meadowlands. Let's let him work his way up. So I'd like to find a nice maiden for him. I had talked to a friend of my brother's, actually, Mark McDonald, my brother. A good friend of his is Mark Beckwith, and Mark Beckwith is from Massachusetts originally, and said that he may be able to race perfect record at Plainridge, which would be cool if he could do that. So that's 4 to New York, 2 to Michigan. Who's heading to Ohio right now? Holy Chick, potentially Italian Grit. Potentially Italian Grit. He's got to go somewhere. Sweet Ambitions is going to Pennsylvania for sure. That's my girl to Ohio, probably next week or the week after. Don't Believe Me, Just Watch is up in the air. I don't know about him yet. Oso Pine is most definitely racing in Ohio this week. Timo Houdini is racing in Michigan. White Tiger is likely going to race at Northfield Park next Tuesday. And Brave World will race in Michigan. Braemar will race in Pennsylvania. That's what my day has looked like. Terrible day yesterday, terrible weekend with everything that went on. Thank God the horses trained good on Saturday, and this will carry over for quite some time, another few days of this, and then hopefully we'll have some sort of idea of how everything is going to settle out over the next few weeks. So anyway, I'd like to tell you I had a good day. I didn't. I had a productive day, but I did not have a good day. I hope you did. And I will talk to you all very soon. And thank you again. I see a lot of these emails I'm CC'd on, or Jim Lawson is, or I see them all heading out to our politicians. Please take a moment, if you don't mind. Just send a note. Send a note. Just reaffirming the impeccable safety record that Woodbine Racetrack and our Ontario racetracks have had in regards to COVID-19, and no outbreaks at all. And again, what horse racing means to the little person. Wherever you live, you are supporting Ontario's agriculture sector. Remember that. It's very important. So, thank you all again. I really appreciate the kind words. I really appreciate your help with the emails. And as always, we'll get through this and we'll push forward. Take care.